Hello, true believers. Joshua Gilliland here, as always, with Jessica Mederson, and tonight we will discuss Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Jess, how you doing?
Hey Josh, I am good. I am very gung-ho about S.H.I.E.L.D. at the moment, I have to admit. Earlier this season, I kind of lost interest for a while. It was getting a little bit slow. I love Agent Coulson, love Agent May, love Joss Whedon, so I was trying to stick in there. But I did lose interest for a while, but then I kind of binged on the most recent 5 or 6 episodes and leading up to last night's episode, and it really got me back into S.H.I.E.L.D. mode. That, and of course, the whole, tying into Captain America too. Even the whole trailer last night that I thought was part of the show for a while got me all riled up. How about you?
Well, as it should, because it's Captain America, and there's nothing awesomer than that. So that's the.
Well, I'd say Wonder Woman's more awesome, but that's you versus me.
You're entitled to your opinion, and that's cool, and I'd have no problem seeing Diana in action. But DC can't get their act together to do that, so let's
Oh,
focus on what we got. And
all right, fair point.
I've watched every episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really do love it. I've been, I don't want to use the word frustrated, but it's taken time, and something should have moved faster. And
Yes.
I think it took them a while to figure out get their bearing, get their sea legs, and get their stride. Because the last half a dozen episodes have been pretty strong, and they keep getting
They
better.
have. Yeah, I think you're right. I think, part of it is the story, and I understand they were trying to develop certain backstory, and I'm a big defender of the long arc. I don't like it when the networks pressure these shows into become more the episodic. You need to have a, beginning, middle, and end to every single episode. Like, that ruined Alias for me. Certainly heard other shows as well. So I'm okay with the long arc and developing the big bad and all that kind of things. But at the same time, you do need to have enough action and development in each individual show to keep you interested. And I think they were struggling with the overall plot and some of the characters too. And I think they've gotten, Sky was a character that I think they struggled with at first. And I really started to like Sky. Everyone loves Agent Coulson. I love Agent May. I think Ward is a big character that they need to figure out more of a backstory for right now. I think, from my perspective, he's the most boring character at the moment.
Yeah, and watching interviews with him and him interact, he seems like a really nice guy. So I don't know what the issue is, but that's definitely an area that they can improve upon. I have enjoyed the arcs that they've done with Coulson, and there's been lots of it with lots of geek shout-outs. They made one reference in tracks that stated what happened to the Abomination after the Incredible Hulk. Just
Whoa, I miss that.
one throwaway line about sending Ward to go guard Belowski's cryo cell in Alaska. Well,
Oh, right.
that's the Abomination.
Oh,
And so that means they put the Abomination in suspended animation because how else would you do that? Which got me thinking about, Cruel and Unusual Punishment, because he did go on a killing spree. He did kill a bunch of people.
mm-hmm.
So how do you imprison somebody that is almost indestructible and can knock over a building? And so you can't, solitary confinement can get into issues of cruel and unusual punishment. Is there an Eighth Amendment duty to cure him? Because there are Eighth Amendment cases that get into treating for medical conditions, and what he does have is a medical condition that was the result of work that drove him crazy. You could also say that that was also done of free will, because I'm pretty sure attorneys for the insurance companies wanted him executed. But how do you execute a guy like that doesn't get into maiming and all the things that we don't like, because you need to use a nuclear weapon or launch him into the sun, which no one's been executed that way, but I really don't think we want to test that.
Well, that's true. And actually, ironically, if it is a mental condition, I know from some friends and family who get involved with it, sometimes the civil commitments for mental health issues are actually, I think, a much bigger legal concern, because you basically are put outside of the typical judicial system where you have due process rights and everything. You basically are committed until some doctor is willing to put, his or her license on the line and say, yeah, I think they're safe to be, part of society again. And so you have people who are locked up in mental hospitals basically for life, because at one point they had some mental issue that was a concern to the society. So I guess he could be, you could almost argue he's in that same sort of world as a lot of these people who are put into mental hospitals for decades. It is sort of a suspended animation where there are no rights, no due process. So look at that. He's in the same boat as some of those poor people.
It just shows it's not easy being green.
All right, Kermit, which of course references the Muppets movie, which my kids really want to go to, as do I, and we've got to get to it one of these days. But
Mom,
yes,
dearest, you haven't done that yet?
I haven't. We just saw the Lego movie. I'm behind,
Okay.
and I still have to see Mr. Peabody and Sherman. And there are too many movies, too many kids' movies to see. Captain America, plus the Badgers are in the Final Four, so that's screwing up all of my weekend Captain America plans.
Yeah, that is pretty horrible. I'm sorry you're going through that. But let's get back to some of the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff.
Oh yeah.
One of my, again, I have very conflicted feelings on this because part of the episode I loved and part of it I didn't like the message.
Which was?
With Lorelai. Because how do you defeat the bossy woman? You put a muzzle on her.
Ooh, good point. I do not like that as a bossy woman who tends to talk a lot. You're right. That was cruel.
So, and it was like right after International Women's Day too. It was like really messed up timing. And it didn't even pass the Bechtel test because when Sif and Agent May are talking, they're talking about their man. And
I know that's true.
It's just like, yeah, so those elements frustrated me.
On the flip side, of course, there was a whole men are weak and are easily swayed by, a pretty woman's words. So you could say that it was offensive to both sexes, which at least if you're going to be offensive to both. And while we're on that episode, you're right. I think I wasn't that crazy about Lorelai. And I we talked about the horrible plot twist that, they know that men are susceptible to her voice. It's like, all right, we're going to go take her down with a whole bunch of men, and we're not even going to put like cotton stuffing in their ears, much less some, cool gizmo that Fitzsimmons could come up with. We're just going to send them in and be like, I'm sure you'll be fine. Just ignore whatever she says to you. Like that plot idea it's like, let's not be stupid. I understand that you need plot developments, but come on, it's the Whedons. I expect a little bit more from the Whedons, and that sort of, we're going to be so dumb, we're going to send men in to listen to her talk.
And it's not like there are women in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. May on her own would have been better than sending in Coulson and Ward with her, and the local sheriffs who were like, and Coulson's like, hey, do you have her captured in there? Like the sheriffs wouldn't have already been turned.
Yeah, that was like really, really dumb being able to go, hey, this 50% of the population can be victimized by her, and she's raised armies in the past just by telling guys what to do. So let's send in some dudes. Like that.
With guns. Let's send in dudes with guns to go try and take her down. I know. That can't possibly turn against us.
It's not like they went in with a shoot first mindset either. Because if we've done that, there could have been some action. And to their credit, they did send Sif in. So at least they acknowledged we should send in women who will not get affected by her. But they blow it. And like that really bothered me of sending the full TAC team of women.
Yes.
And granted, maybe they weren't, I don't know what they were thinking, but that just seemed like...
Put cotton in their ears. Put headphones on. They're those fancy Bose noise-canceling headphones. Get some of those at Best Buy before you go raid her.
I totally love Jamie Alexander because she, is not the, dressed up as a bimbo. She's wearing full clothing, full body armor, the way somebody going into battle would be dressed. You don't see her midriff. And she rolls heads and gets the job done and is an excellent warrior. Not only that, she seems like a really nice person in all the interviews and everything. So it would have been nicer if there was a completely different villain for her to fight.
Or a better villain, a better plot. I do agree. She was by far the best part of that episode. I am now a huge fan of Lady Sif and of Jamie Alexander. She was, still gorgeous, attractive, like every girl wants to be her, every guy wants to be with her kind of thing. Actually, bunch of girls probably want to be with her too. But yeah, she was super strong and badass, and I just loved her. And tell everyone again what you said, why one of the reasons why you think she's so nice.
Well, if there was right before Thanksgiving, I think it was actually on Thanksgiving Day, she went to one of the children's hospitals in Los Angeles, in costume and spent the day being nice to kids who are fighting disease.
Oh,
You need more of that in this world, and there are a lot of actors who do that. Garfield, does that. Goes above and beyond and is nice to kids and helps
yes.
others. And so when you see stuff like that, they should get the shout out because they know their fan base. The other one was Matt Smith, who was the last Doctor. Uh,
Uh,
he was in Texas for a convention and found out about one of his biggest fans, 4-year-old with a terminal brain tumor, back in England. And he shot a little video for the kid on his phone and put it out on YouTube, and made the kid's day.
oh,
So there are people who take that step to be kind in science fiction. And Peter Capaldi did one too not too long ago with two very young Doctor Who fans and just being uber cool to them. So when you get
yes.
the Jamie Alexanders, the Matt Smith, the Peter Capaldis, who are awesome human beings, you want to see more of them. So I'd really like to see a Lady Sif TV show, be it in primetime or on Netflix.
I would love that because also that character. I think there's clearly some very interesting backstory there, and of course, I've always loved Norse mythology. Coming from northern Minnesota, I think I have to. But yeah, so I would actually love to see a whole show based on Norse mythology and her and the warrior thing. That'd be fantastic.
It would work.
I
And
think it would.
I think it would
Games of
work.
Thrones and all that right now. I think it'd be very huge.
It
All right,
would,
somebody, please listen to us.
if we had the power to greenlight anything, Ms. Alexander, we would totally do that for you, but we're
Jamie,
lawyers.
we'll start a Kickstarter thing for you.
We could do the paperwork. That we could do that exponentially well. So if you need things filled out, forms, we gotcha. Plus
But now we should probably get back to S.H.I.E.L.D. again. We keep wandering afield.
well,
Back to S.H.I.E.L.D.
let's talk about Tahiti.
Ooh, magical place.
Yeah, where it's okay to kill two guys doing their job in order to save your friend. And that bothered me because the heroes were the aggressors,
True.
forced their way in to the base, and killed the guys defending themselves. So they
Okay,
didn't.
wait. Did they actually use bullets or were they using the icers? I now kind of assume that they're always using
They
icers.
were using real guns. So
Oh,
if they, because they shot one of them. So
yeah, you're right.
if they'd gone in using icers and at least pulled them out, if they'd used icers and left them there to die, that would have been worse. So any way you cut it, that episode, that part of it bothered me deeply because the hero should not be committing murder.
That's true.
There's no valid necessity defense. There could be a necessity defense to break in. They could make that argument,
Right.
but they have no necessity defense to kill people. And they can't argue self-defense when they're the aggressors who open fire.
Who are trespassing, go in. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. All right, you're right. I hadn't really thought that during the episode, but you're right.
And that's how I watch the show. So with my brain thinking like that. So that explains why I'm single. And
That's not why, Josh.
there are other reasons. But, that's how I see the world. That's how I think. And that I don't turn off the lawyer part of me. I'm always thinking constitutionally and common law and in California code. But
So in other words, lady, he's a fun time at the movies.
hello, ladies. Yeah. Nope. That's a vow of being alone for a long time. So,
But speaking of Tahiti, I did think, going back to our roots, of course, of e-discovery, when Fitzsimmons they were trying to figure out, how to track down what they needed and what had happened to Agent Coulson and everything. And also they decided that, there was restricted access to some things, but they're like, we can do the, virtual paper trail. And they pull up that nifty, they always do the 3D holographic things. And I was like, wow, this is e-discovery on the coolest review platform ever. It's just sitting there clicking on your mouse and doing some keyword searches, some date restrictions, some early case assessment. I'm like, I just want to go whoosh, pull everything up, push things around a few times, and bam, there's the answer. I'm like, the smoking gun. I loved it. So I'm very jealous of their e-discovery tools.
I would argue it's the most ineffective e-discovery tool. because you've now created the digital warehouse that you have to walk around in. Being able to create an algorithm that could have identified things and still use visual analytics, because visual analytics are cool, because you go these date ranges and then start manipulating that. That would have been awesome, but they didn't have any e-discovery people like us as consultants helping them out, because why would any of them actually have done document review on their lives?
Ah, lucky bastards.
I
Yes.
know. But again, predictive coding, I expected more out of Fitz and Simmons. They could have come up with a really nice algorithm, find what they needed, and ironically, what they did would have worked in virtually all of today's review applications, with the exception of the 3D graphic that showed the physical island. That
That
was
was really cool. The binary numbers actually just turn into, yes, the island. I'm like, wow.
that was pretty groovy. I liked that a lot too, and that did stick out in my head of like, what a wonderful e-discovery example that will never exist. But yeah, that's then they went out and killed a couple dudes, and that bothered me.
Luckily, yes, none of my e-discovery reviews have ever turned out that poorly, I guess. So I'm like, I read about other mistakes, accidentally letting a privileged document get through, or something like that. But yeah, actually ending up with your doc review, ending up with 2 people dead. Luckily, I've not had to deal with that.
Yeah, that's that would be bad.
Puts my stresses in perspective.
Yeah, that would be extremely bad. I mean, doc review has driven people crazy. We know that's true. It's probably caused screaming. It's probably caused a few divorces, but I don't think it's ever resulted in a shooting spree. And yeah, so.
Yes. So what else? So I know you're more concerned generally, I think, with the rule of law and S.H.I.E.L.D. than I am, because I'm more willing to just let it all go and kind of abandon my concerns with being a lawyer and the Constitution. But you are not, because you stick to your vows 24/7.
Yeah, which is ironic because I enjoyed 24 and you didn't, and for
Yeah.
exactly the same reason, which is kind of funky if you think about it. But so those issues do bother me, because we see Sky perhaps just doing massive hacking into a system to find things out without a warrant, and that's bad. In the Incredible Hulk, you had S.H.I.E.L.D. monitoring all of the data communications taking place in order to help figure out where Banner was, and you can't get a general warrant on everybody in the United States. We kind of frown on that because we have this wacky little thing called the Fourth Amendment. And so those issues, that when you take an oath to uphold the Constitution and you're a law enforcement agency, and we can talk about that in a moment, you should be following the law. And by way of comparison, Almost Human, which was supposed to be in 2048, where society is a lot rougher, they still had references to civil rights. And when a guy got arrested, he had his attorney appear by hologram to represent him. And so you can do it in the sci-fi shell of being able to at least acknowledge the Constitution and civil rights. And they've run over them pretty badly in the show.
They do. And I have a couple questions, I guess, because there's one when is it Garrett, who is Ward's former SO, when he's in talking to Quinn and basically says, you're not going to get a lawyer, you're not going to get anything. And I'm like, all right, so what is Quinn? Is he an enemy combatant? Is this like 24 where we can just torture people without regard, and then certain people in real world use 24 as justification for actual real policies?
Yeah, but okay, by way of comparison, when we do the rendition thing, we try not to get our actual hands dirty. We have our friend country beat the hell out of somebody.
Well, that's so much better.
Yeah, so we're not actually getting our hands dirty. I'm not saying that's right. That's just how we roll in that situation.
Yes.
Garrett, was grabbing his tongue and slapping him around. And, after Sky shot, May goes in and throws a couple good punches on him, showing that the Ice Lady does have a heart and she's upset Sky's dying.
Yes.
But we don't. Okay, so there's like outright torture. I have a problem with that. I'm okay with torturing someone to find the nuclear bomb that's going to go off in the hour.
Well, yes, but that's always the exception. That's really the case where we're actually doing anything.
When the Senate was debating, our torture standards, and McCain, who knew a little bit about this, said, if you guys want to do this, you have to know that there are repercussions, and
Yes.
that you can argue an exception. This had no exception other than just beating the hell out of the guy to get information. So
Mm-hmm.
that, well, the Quinn appears to be a U.S. citizen who's been living abroad, whether it's Morocco or someplace else, to escape U.S. jurisdiction. But when we have soldiers, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but we follow the standards that we have. They arrest somebody that they think is an Al-Qaeda member in Afghanistan, read the Miranda rights. And the fact that they've just completely blown over that bothers me.
Well, okay, this gets to the deeper question, because also when Coulson was speaking to Quinn on the phone in an earlier episode before they captured him, and said something about, if you ever fly over or in a country where we have jurisdiction, to me, and I'm not the S.H.I.E.L.D. expert that you are, I'm never clear, is S.H.I.E.L.D. actually part of the U.S. government? Is it part of the UN? Is it part of NATO? Is it some other weird multinational thing? Because to me, that line alone left the impression with me that S.H.I.E.L.D. is broader, bigger, beyond, different from the U.S. government, which then argues, if we're affiliated with it, is it bound by our Constitution, yada, yada.
Okay, so there are a couple ways to look at this. If we go by comic book history, that S.H.I.E.L.D. starts out because Nick Fury fights in World War II with Captain America, and the story started in the 60s because Nick had the Infinity Serum, so that means he's just living a really, really long time and not aging. So he's seen every U.S. president since Roosevelt in the comics. And so up until the late 80s, where S.H.I.E.L.D. was part of the U.S. government.
Okay.
Okay. Then when we find out about Leviathan, and we have Nick Fury, ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and all of that hits the fan with things going sideways, because it turns out that S.H.I.E.L.D's actually been manipulated and controlled by the same people who've been running Hydra and AIM.
Oh.
There's a full-blown civil war and fighting, and it ends with a fight on the space station, and Fury in a really weird bikini because they're trying to extract the Infinity Serum from him. That's really weird, and that left an emotional scar for my childhood. Why the hell is he in that? That doesn't make any sense.
And why do I find him somewhat attractive?
It's like, I wouldn't want to wear that. How do you fight in that? So I don't see the scientific purpose for this either. So
is that the same era where the movie Flash, wasn't he wearing a silver Speedo or a gold Speedo at one point in that too? Maybe that was just a whole late 80s kind of, or an 80s sort of superhero thing. We're going to put our men in these little tight Speedos.
It was.
I'm not all totally opposed to.
I am. It was more reminiscent of that Sean Connery sci-fi thing from the 70s. What was it? Oh, God, I'm blanking on the name because I've repressed that. But, that was, he's basically in a red Speedo thing that has straps that go up to the shoulders. It's really weird.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so it was a lot like that. It was weird. So after that, S.H.I.E.L.D. gets a new acronym, even though it's still S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're broader, and it's a little more international in flavor. And then when I hit high school, I started reading. So when we look at the movies, it seems to be kind of a hybrid.
Okay.
Homeland is in the title. That's
right.
That's the H. We get Law Enforcement Division and all that good stuff too.
Okay.
It was an outgrowth of the SSR, which created Captain America with Howard Stark and all of that followed, and that's alluded to it in the Agent Carter short as well. And so it definitely has U.S. origins. And so if it is multinational, everyone still looks bloody American in it, with the exception of a couple Brits who were there, and they seem to be operating the United States on U.S. bases, with a campus, at least one campus in the United States, vehicles operating in the United States.
Yes.
Okay. At the beginning of the last episode, they were on the USS John Stennis, the only Nimitz-class carrier named after a senator. That's what the big 74 means. So nuclear Nimitz class carriers are not coffee shops for S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. You don't just get to go hang out on one. So all of that would show that they are operating within the United States. There's no way in hell the United States Congress, executive branch, or Supreme Court would tolerate a foreign entity conducting law enforcement exercises in the United States. Back at the end of 2013, people started freaking out when the Russians wanted to put surveillance towers in the United States under the auspices of boosting their cellular signatures, in which people here went, no, die, go get out, Putin.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that, if S.H.I.E.L.D. was operating in the United States, not following our Constitution, which is one of the supreme law of the land, the president should order all U.S. military personnel to shoot S.H.I.E.L.D. on sight. The fact that they're flying around in F-22s and Joint Strike Fighters also shows that they're using U.S. equipment. Everything's in English, and they're all speaking English, which again makes me think that they're all coming from the United States. You cannot have a United States agency not following the Constitution.
All right. Well, you have made a convincing pitch. I think now this is our second pitch of the day. Whedon Brothers, please listen to us and please, at least, a couple lines, right, to somehow acknowledge that they're either totally violating the Constitution or there's some special something that they get to do this under. Dick Cheney gave them the okay back in 2001, so it's all cool. Meanwhile, I have to admit, I got a little distracted, although I was very impressed by everything you said. It was Outland, and not only did Sean Connery have on like this weird red diaper thing with these weird red harnesses, he had a braid and he had thigh-high boots on, and we are totally going to have to tweet out that picture because, oh my God.
It's wrong is what it is. It's wrong!
Like, at what point did we say, you know what, maybe we need to reevaluate the costume choices for this movie? I don't care if it's 1981, in any decade. This is, like, how much cocaine were they doing that they're all like, no, this is great, this is great, this is going to be awesome, this is great.
You and I had very different childhoods, very different collegiate experiences, and very different...
Hey, I know any of that stuff. I'm just saying that's the only reason I can think of. It's the 80s, and that was a really bad fashion choice. I'm blaming cocaine because there's no other reason that that could possibly, anybody could have ever looked at it and said, oh yeah, that's the right outfit for this movie. That's a classic.
It's horrible. So anyway, just imagine something like that on Nick Fury, and you can understand. He didn't have. It was weird, and I remember going like, "What? Why?" Anyway, we're back to that. Well, let's.
We are, and I'd say one thing about Nick Fury really quickly that they tricked me with last night during this most recent episode of S.H.I.E.L.D., where I totally thought that the Captain America trailer was part of the show because there's this whole thing of where's Nick Fury? Where's Nick Fury? Agent Coulson can't get a hold of Nick Fury, and all of a sudden, bam! There's this trailer. You know, Director Fury is like running down the street in his car. He's trying to get help. He's like, bad guys are going after him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's actually making a cameo. Like Samuel Jackson is on TV making a cameo on S.H.I.E.L.D. This is freaking awesome. And then no, it was a teaser. It was a trailer for the movie. So I was like, ooh, clever misdirect.
I actually think it was both.
Oh.
I think it's incorporated in because the following episode plays off Winter Soldier.
And so you think next week's episode will actually play off of this weekend's Captain America?
Yeah.
All right, because obviously they're leading to something big next week. So, ooh, interesting.
Because all the previews for Cap, and again, the Winter Soldier storyline that they did, mid-2000s, before Civil War started, was jaw-dropping amazing.
Ooh.
And do you know the premise of it?
I have never been into any of the Captain America stuff at all. I've always found him very bland. I have to say in the Avengers, I started to get mildly interested. I haven't even seen the first Captain America yet. I've got to watch it this week before the movie comes out.
Okay, so the quick overview. Captain America's sidekick in World War II was Bucky. And there was the Bucky rule that, that anyone who dies in the comic book can come back except Bucky. Well, they broke the Bucky rule, and I thought I'd be appalled, and it was brilliant. So what happened in the comic book world, and that they have done in Captain America, is Bucky is appears to have been killed at the close to the end of the first Captain America movie, and they had him falling off a drone bomb in the comic books, and that was established. And when Cap's de-thawed, there's this lingering guilt because of Bucky's death.
Okay.
Bucky didn't die. In the comics, it's the icy water. He loses his arm. The Russians were around, and they pick up his body, and there's massive damage, and his memory's gone. And so they build him a robotic arm. They realize he still has his training, his muscle memory, and they condition him to be an assassin. And they put him in suspended animation, and they de-thaw him when they need him to go out and kill someone. And so in the comic, he has a long, bloody trail of being de-thawed and, bumping off a NATO general, killing a U.S. senator, and, as this goes. And they call him the Winter Soldier. In the comics, they realize, because after the fall of the Soviet Union, you have an ex-Soviet general who is using him to achieve his goals.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it is wickedly brilliant. And at the end of the storyline, Cap uses a cosmic cube to restore Bucky's memory, saying, "Remember who you are." Which is a little much because he remembers everything that he had done.
Right.
Killing people. And so he goes off for a bit and disappears. Then when Captain America is killed at the end of Civil War, Bucky, Winter Soldier, becomes Captain America.
Ooh.
Yeah. So in the movie, it looks like they're probably doing the same type of thing. Also,
which is good because Chris Evans just keeps whining about how hard it is to be in these Marvel movies and how he's going to retire from acting. And then, I never said I'd retire. I'm getting sick of the whininess. I'm like, do you know how many actors would kill to be in your spot? So, dude, shut up. Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, so which is why that actor playing Bucky / Winter Soldier has a 9-movie contract as opposed to Chris Evans' 6.
Aha.
So they'll probably, again, the entire storyline of Civil War was amazing. Captain America's death stunned everyone. I couldn't get that comic in the United States. I had it because it was selling out.
Wow.
I bought it in Vancouver, Canada on a business trip. That was, I think, the last comic book store in North America that had it. I had to leave the United States in order to get the comic. And that's still one of my favorite comic book stores. That one in Vancouver is just awesome. But it was jaw-dropping. There were fundamental changes in the Marvel Universe. They did a 6-part miniseries called Fallen Son, in which the author had actually lost his own son to cancer. And the miniseries focused on different heroes dealing with each of the stages of grief.
Wow.
Responding to the death of Captain America. And it was wickedly brilliant. And then, the fact that the Captain America comic book continued with the lead dead, because all these things are in motion. And so you have different people trying to pick up the pieces, a lot of Black Widow, you have Falcon, you have others who are running around, and Bucky ultimately picking up the shield.
Wow.
And so it is absolutely fantastic. It was a brilliant several-year arc that they had built. And it will be interesting to see what they're able to do and how much of those elements they pull into Winter Soldier. Because we know it will be different.
Right.
But, they might pull in a little of like the Leviathan element of S.H.I.E.L.D. turning bad and the division within S.H.I.E.L.D., which we'll probably see kind of a civil war within S.H.I.E.L.D. as they're fighting each other for the soul of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Holy cow. So we've got a big week. We've got Captain America this weekend, which I actually am, I think mainly because of you and the trailers, really getting excited about and looking forward to Captain America. I'm back on S.H.I.E.L.D., so between Captain America and then S.H.I.E.L.D. next week, this could be big. We're going to have some fun stuff to talk about here in the next couple of weeks.
And so my prediction that we'll be seeing after next Tuesday night with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is following unlawful orders. because under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I believe it's Section 90, you only have to follow lawful orders. And so
Right.
you do not need to follow unlawful orders. And so with everything they set up with the fighting and Victoria Hand being, looks like the villain.
I hope not. I'm hoping that's a misdirect, but they sure do have it set up that way right now.
Yeah, they do. And in the
I'm thinking it's the guy from Lost. Who's the guy? Was it Blake?
I don't think it's him, but
I just because he was a bad guy on Lost, so.
in the comic, after, I mean, this could get really complicated, so I'm going to keep it high level. After Iron Man is no longer in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. after the secret invasion, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, turns into, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And they have the Dark Siege, and it's very unpleasant. And it's basically every liberal and conservative nightmare come true about the police state and in consolidating that much power. So it proved Captain America right from Civil War, and bad things happen in that period. Well, she was Osborn's right hand in carrying that out. And after Cap is brought back to life and Osborn's thrown out during the siege, we have Cap puts Hand in charge of running the Avengers because she was just basically doing her duty and following orders. So I don't know if there's some other force at play or if she's the mastermind, but it just goes to show, don't trust a woman with that red streak of dyed hair.
I love the red streak. I'm totally going to try and do something like that. I think it's awesome. I do like her as a character so far, so I'm really hoping that she's not bad. I even hope too, if she is bad, I hope she's a big bad then. I don't want her to be just a henchman, like make her the lead. She's a strong woman. I don't want her to be an assistant. So
that I agree with. And I mean, the actress who plays her is phenomenal at it because she is very strong and, kind of the tough as nails approach. And so, yeah, that would be, if she is the villain, make her the villain. But I think Robert Redford's character in Winter Soldier is the ultimate big bad, and I think she's the second in command to that. So.
All right. Well, we will see next week if your prediction is right. I'm very excited. Some big geek stuff coming up here, Josh. So you and I will geek out, and maybe we'll be in costume next time we talk.
I have my Captain America shirts, plural.
Yeah. I have one now, thanks to you.
See, I'm an enabler. So, and I will go tomorrow night wearing one of them. And if anyone goes with me, I have spares. So,
oh my God. Ladies, how can you turn down a date with this man?
Pick out a t-shirt for you. Yes.
And now it's time to wrap up before we get weird.
That's a selling point the more I think about that. That should not have been out loud. So.
All right, well, have fun tomorrow night. Don't spoil it for me. I don't get to see it until this weekend. I got to say, go Badgers.
Go Stanford, since the ladies are in the Final Four. And
all right, okay.
Everyone, stay geeky, America. Stay geeky.